Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about a player today. I might as well induct him into the THG Hall of Fame while I'm at it because Keith Tkachuk was one of my favorite players. And I can't say when I was growing up because I wasn't technically a kid in 91, 92. But as a young adult, he was one of my favorite players. He's drafted 19th overall in 1990 by the Winnipeg Jets. And physical player, he could score. And his kids, physical players, they can score. So 91-92, he makes his debut with the Winnipeg Jets towards the end of the season. 17 games, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points. He has 28 penalty minutes. The physicality, his willingness to drop the gloves, it is something that stands out with him even as a young kid. 7 games in the playoffs, 3 goals, no assists, 30 penalty minutes. So again, the physicality is there, and he gives Winnipeg a bit of a different look. 92-93, I should say. 83 games played, 28 goals, 23 assists, 51 points. Now, he gets overshadowed a bit during this time period by Teemu Selanne. 201 penalty minutes that season in the playoffs, 6 games, 4 goals, no assists, 14 points. So that is 7 goals in his first 13 games in the playoffs. It's pretty good in big games. 93-94, plays 84 games for the Jets. There were 84 games that season. 41 goals, 40 assists, 81 points, 255 penalty minutes. He was also named the team captain. So we've seen Brady Tkachuk named team captain at a young age by the Sens, and he's just following in his dad's footsteps. Keith was Winnipeg Jets captain and became Arizona's captain as well when they moved. 94-95, 48 games, 22 goals, 29 assists, 51 points, 152 penalty minutes. Now, he did play every game because that's a lockout shortened season. And he was a second-team All-Star that year. So he's starting to emerge as a star in his own right. 95-96, what would be the last year in Winnipeg? Well, Keith Tkachuk gave it everything he had. In 76 games, he had 50 goals, which was 7th overall in the NHL that year. 48 assists, 98 points, 156 penalty minutes. And in the playoffs, 6 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, 22 penalty minutes. So as I said, 50-goal scorer. He absolutely gave everything he had for the Jets. It was heartbreaking when they moved to Arizona. But for him and for his game, it didn't suffer when they got to Arizona at all. 96-97 in 81 games, 52 goals, which led the NHL that year. So this is before the Rocket Richard Trophy existed, so he technically never won hardware in the NHL, though he did finish first in goals that year. 34 assists for 86 points, 228 penalty minutes that season. In the playoffs, in 7 games, he had 6 goals, no assists, so 7 points. He ends up 10th in the Hart voting that year. So again, for Arizona, their first year there, he's 10th in Hart voting. That's pretty good. He also played in the All-Star game. 97-98, plays 69 games for Arizona, 40 goals, which is 6th overall in the NHL, 26 assists, 66 points, 147 penalty minutes. So if he'd played all 82 games that year, probably would have finished a little bit higher up the goals chart. But 6th is still pretty good. 6 playoff games that year, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, 10 penalty minutes. He was a second-team All-Star at the end of the season, and he played in the All-Star game. 98-99, 68 games played, 36 goals, 32 assists, 68 points, 151 penalty minutes. In the playoffs in 7 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points, 13 penalty minutes, and again, he's in the All-Star game. Now, the physical style of hockey that Tkachuk plays is going to mean he's going to miss some games. It's something I wonder about with both Matthew and with Brady as they get older, whether or not we'll see that with them. 99-2000, with Arizona that year, he plays 50 games, 22 goals, 21 assists, 43 points, 82 penalty minutes. In the playoffs, he adds a goal and an assist in 5 games, 4 penalty minutes. So one issue that the Coyotes have is basically the same issue Winnipeg had. When they get into the playoffs, they're not able to get very far. And it is something that happened with the Jets before the move. It's something that happens with the Coyotes. And eventually, their playoff chances kind of start eroding here. So 2000-2001, 64 games played with Arizona, 29 goals, 42 assists, 71 points, 108 penalty minutes. Remarkable season he's having. And on March the 13th, the Coyotes decide to make a change. They trade him for a 2002 first, which was used to draft Ben Eager, Michael Handzus, Ladislav Nagy, and Jeff Tafe. So this is getting a lot of assets for one player. I would still give the win in this trade to the St. Louis Blues. After the trade to the Blues, plays 12 games, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points, 14 penalty minutes. In the playoffs, 15 games, so he went on a nice long run there. 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points, 20 penalty minutes. So the early 2000s St. Louis Blues are a team that's willing to spend a lot of money. They're a team that's pretty high up in the standings most years, it seems, and Tkachuk gets added to their ranks. So 73 games played, no 102, 38 goals, which is 7th overall, 37 assists, 75 points, 117 penalty minutes. Just prototypical power forward. Scores goals, penalty minutes, throws hits, a little bit of everything. In the playoffs, 10 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points, 18 penalty minutes for Tkachuk that year. 02-03, he plays 56 games in total, 31 goals, 24 assists, 55 points, 139 penalty minutes. In the playoffs, in 7 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points, 14 penalty minutes. So the 139 penalty minutes in 56 games, that's impressive. And overall, Tkachuk's penalty minute totals they're pretty good. So it's a lot, right? Comparatively speaking with players now, the penalty minutes that were put up 20, 25, 30 years ago, yeah, we won't see that again. I don't think the game has really changed. 2003, 2004, 75 games played, 33 goals, which was 10th overall in the NHL that year. We're fully into the dead puck era at this point. 38 assists, 71 points. So having a points total around a point per game in 2003, 2004 is still impressive because there are fewer goals being scored around the league. 83 penalty minutes, as his penalty minutes do drop in terms of penalty minutes per game. In the playoffs, 5 games, 2 assists, 10 penalty minutes. He did play in the All-Star game. That was his final All-Star game that year. So 04-05 gets wiped out by the lockout. 05-06, he plays a total of 41 games with St. Louis. 15 goals, 21 assists, 36 points. And in the playoffs, 46. And his penalty minutes were 46. There were no playoffs that year for St. Louis. And then on 06-07, St. Louis, who are still going through what they're going through, he plays 61 games, 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points, 92 penalty minutes, and then he's traded. Now, this is where the NHL isn't all that happy with this story necessarily. So February 25th, he was traded for a 2007 first, which would be traded to Calgary. Calgary would draft Michael Backlund. A 2007 third, a 2008 first, which was used to draft Zach Bogosian. We'll come back to that. A 2008 second, and Glenn Metropolitan. So with the Atlanta Thrashers, he plays 18 games, 7 goals, 8 assists, 15 points, 34 penalty minutes. And then in the playoffs, the one time Atlanta makes the playoffs, 4 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, and 12 penalty minutes. Now, the rumor had always been that Tkachuk and the Blues had made an agreement that they were going to rent him out to Atlanta and then he'd come back to St. Louis. The NHL doesn't like this a whole lot. And the rumors that this is what was going to happen get proven on June 26th when, after the playoffs are all done, he is traded back to the St. Louis Blues to get back that 2008 first-round draft pick, which they would use a year later to draft Zach Bogosian. So this is where the NHL didn't like the trade. They weren't happy. And Atlanta, they loaded up at the deadline with the idea of this could be our one chance. And it really was. And then they got swept in the first round. So it was a tough out for Atlanta. And it's something the NHL wagged their finger at a little bit. Because basically the Blues were renting him out with the idea of taking him back after, right? And back with the Blues in 07-08, plays 79 games, 27 goals, 31 assists, 58 points, and 69 penalty minutes. 08-09, 79 games played, 25 goals, 24 assists, 49 points. So the goals and points have dropped off. 61 penalty minutes. He plays four playoff games that year and records 2 penalty minutes. He was in the All-Star game in 2009 as well. Now, 09-10, 67 games played, 13 goals, 19 assists, 32 points, 56 penalty minutes. So for Keith Tkachuk, when his career's finished, he's played 1,201 games in the NHL, 538 goals, which is 34th on the all-time list, 627 assists, 1,065 points, which is 70th all-time, 2,219 penalty minutes. And again, we don't even see guys, I mean, it's rare to see guys hit 1,000 now with penalty minutes. 89 playoff games, 28 goals, 28 assists, 56 points, and 176 penalty minutes in those 89 playoff games. So he was one of the better power forwards for a long time in the National Hockey League. 2002, he had Olympic silver with the U.S. 1996, he won gold at the World Cup representing the U.S., and he had World Junior Championship bronze in 1992, again, playing for the American team. So Keith Tkachuk, one of the better American players in the history of the game. You guys can let me know in the comment section below where you'd place him in that. I know it was a conversation on, I think it was on ESPN I was watching last week where they were talking about who the best American-born player was, and I thought, that might be an interesting video to do at some point. And so here's one of the guys we can talk about when we talk about the best American players who've played in the National Hockey League. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.